Hi everyone. So Steve, hello from Gridiron Hub. You can see here I'm joined by Kevin Keohane.
Hi guys.
Yeah, thanks for saying hi, Kev.
All right.
So I'm quite pleased about this one. Looking forward to this one. And this is why I'm doing it by myself rather than a group of people. I wanted to give Kev as much airtime as possible as well. Hopefully, those of you, there'll be a lot of people that know Kev and know of Kev. Those of you that don't know him will hopefully see why. We wanted to give him a lot of airtime. He's got a lot to say, a lot of valuable information to share, and I'm really excited to have him on. And so this is essentially, I suppose, a chat between me and Kev. I've got some stuff that I want to run by him, and get him to share his ideas on. Kev and I actually talk quite a lot about Brtiball regularly, and he hasn't played for 2 years, Kev?
Yeah, I retired. My last game was for GB versus Sweden back in October 2017.
Yeah, it was 3 years.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah, so 3 years this month, pretty much.
Yeah, so even though Kev has not played for 3 years, he's very much kept up to date with comings and goings and current affairs, and he and I bounce ideas off of each other and talk about stuff a lot, and he's got the same mindset that a lot of people that are involved with Gridiron Hub have, which is about the growth of the game and the natural development of it, realistic expectations of it, and I'm looking forward to hearing, as well as his own story, but his own views as well. Also, for this one, we're going to open it up. I want to be quite interactive with the audience, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if you guys got questions for Kev, please, by all means, get involved and ask him, and we'll get him up on screen and we'll talk through. I suppose I think it will probably help people to understand maybe the context of everything, Kev.
Yeah.
Actually, just to sort of introduce him a bit more, I said in the description of the live stream, arguably one of the best linemen in Brtiball for the last 10 years. Well, you take 3 away from that and the previous 10, all right, because he wasn't there for the last 10. I'll still rank you up there, even though you weren't playing, Kev.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Fantastic player with fantastic stories and history and pedigree to him. And has played at the best level for the best clubs in this country, and captained at those levels as well. So he's an absolute leader as well. Like I said, I couldn't be more pleased to have him on.
Thanks for having me on, Steve. Appreciate that.
No, and extremely, genuinely pleased about it. So I think probably a good place to start is, just so there's a bit of context in how our conversation goes forward, is would you mind telling people how we know each other?
All right, so I know Steve from our days playing for the Farnham Knights, or the Personal Assurance Knights. But I think you joined, was it around 2005, 2006, about that time?
I joined 2006. The Knights.
2006, and sort of like the first time I really got to know you was on that trip to Las Vegas, where you eventually got your nickname that's kind of stuck with you from everyone who knows about the Knights since then. And then from that, we played a number of years at Farnham. We became housemates for a few years as well. So there's a lots of sort of like interactions we've had, not only inside football but outside football and in life and stuff like that. And I believe that's why you and I still talk very freely about everything, not just football, but life and work and careers and families and all that sort of stuff, because we sort of had that bond, and we was like really quite tight when we were playing together, and here we are, sort of 14 years later, still chatting the same sort of stuff and throwing ideas out there and bouncing off one another. So no, it's good.
Yeah. And you've left out one key element, Kev. We both used to work as doormen together.
Yep, there's some lovely pictures of us working some events. I think one of them was Wild West Beans, when you had lovely.
Yeah, that's my favourite one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what Kev's talking about, we did was it a Christmas party that was Wild West themed? Is that what it was?
It was like a corporate Christmas party
Yeah,
event
yeah.
they had at the golf club, and it was Wild West themed, and they had sort of hay bales and all this sort of stuff, and they were like, "Do you two want a picture?" And we were like, "Yes, of course we do."
Yeah. And this professional photographer took some pictures of us. Kev's much bigger than I am. And I had long hair at the time, and it was like we were, like a gay couple posing together, wasn't it? It was quality.
So, I mean, I'm 6'4". What are you? What 5'4"?
Yeah, no, I'm 5'8".
Yeah, so it was a lovely stage, and I like the fact that the picture was so popular. It went up in the security company's office.
Yeah, that's
for a number of years after that as well. So, it's just to
remember
show what we could do.
Yeah, because the initial reaction was like, "What are you doing this for? You're supposed to be the doorman."
So yeah, that's how I know Steve. I know Steve on the field, off the field, and everywhere in between. And I did see there was an embarrassing story that I could tell about you for public interest, and it would be the one at Benny's stag do in Bristol, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't know which one from that. There was quite a few.
Let's just say you know how to take a shot.
Oh, that one, yeah.
That one,
okay, yeah. I thought you would. Yeah,
no, not the other ones.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Well, let's come back to that later. Let's get to you first, right?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I suppose a lot of this stuff's going to seem quite cliche and almost foreign, me asking you it, because I know a lot of the answers to this, but but actually some of it I don't. So I want to start like journey wise. How you got into playing? Why were you interested in American football in the UK? Like, how did you end up playing, putting the pads on and playing?
Well, to be honest, my interest in American football started sort of like the very early 90s when they used to have the American Bowl come over here at Wembley, and then the London Monarchs started playing. I mean, and I was lucky enough that my uncle took me and my cousin to, I think it was the first year the Monarchs played. We went to every home game at Wembley and watched them win the World Bowl, and we're absolutely hooked. Yeah. And then we saw the NFL games that they used to have there as well. And then that was it. I had an interest of football, but I never thought about playing it until I met a friend when I was sort of like 15, 16 years old, a guy called Greg Goldie, who was a number of years at the Blitz, who basically just said to me, "You're a bit of a lump. Do you fancy giving it a try?" And I did. So I think that was 98. I went down for my first session.
And so very quickly, where my mind went when you said about watching the Monarchs, I know that there was a number of ex-Monarch players in our squad when we played together at the Knights.
Yeah.
Did you ever play with any of you? Were any of your teammates then players you watched?
I'm not sure if Victor Mohammed played in 91, 92, then yes, I will have played with a London Monarch that I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But other than that, all the guys that you're referring to,
T-Mac, Belcher.
Yeah, I think they all played much later on, sort of like when I was going through my teenage years of I want to go out and have fun rather than going to watch sports and stuff like that. So
did Kenny Letman play for the Monarchs?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he did. He might very well have been involved in around on the program, sort of in competition, but I don't think he did. I think the main tight end was Jerry Anderson.
Of course he was. Yeah. There's just a couple of I just want to bring out a couple of comments just so we can see like what people are saying so far. Someone's asking best memory in Brtiball. We will come back to that, Tony. So thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've got that on my list.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to start thinking about that one because there's been quite a few.
Yeah, retiring in your last game as GB. That's awesome. Try retiring in Div 2. No. And then someone said, imagine, my mate Chris said, imagine admitting playing in Div 2.
Hey, we all have to play at a level somewhere where we fit in, so you can't knock people who want to do that.
People are picking up on our baseball cap.
Yeah,
our old coach.
I should have worn my Gridiron hub cap, but I thought that might be.
Yeah, I was going to go full. I was going to go full regalia with the mask as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have done that. Gone full all out.
Yeah. Coach Raines has just confirmed it. Kenny didn't play for the Monarchs. But
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, no worries.
Best venue played in. Yeah, let's jump to that one actually. So this is from Claire Claxon, or she's called herself Mrs. Ox. I always avoided calling her that, but someone we both know from our time.
Yeah, it's meant in the nicest way, not more about her as a person. But it's
well, she's got it as her own Facebook name, right?
I know. Her husband's nickname was Ox, so that's what it is. Best venue I've played in.
Yeah,
probably. I really liked Worcester in the UK, Worcester Warriors ground, where they're down in Worcester.
What was that called? What is it? Six something.
6 ways.
6 ways.
But my best overall.
Surely Austria. Or
yeah, it's probably
Sam Boyd.
It was either Austria against Innsbruck, or it would have been against Frankfurt for the Galaxy in Frankfurt as well.
Well, they're nice.
Stadium, yeah.
You wouldn't put the Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas in there.
Yeah, it was cool, but it was empty, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was a really cool experience.
How good were the changing rooms? Like,
when you play in an empty stadium, it's no different to playing on the park sometimes.
Yeah. So
those guys who are playing in empty stadiums now, it must be such a big dramatic change for the professionals, sort of like football and rugby and stuff like that. Playing in empty stadium must feel really, really weird.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So you said that you got into the sport through the love of it from going, and then you had a friend that played for the Blitz. So was that your first team?
That was my first team. Yeah, I played from the Blitz from 90, sort of like end of '98. My first proper season was 1999, and then I played with them until 2002. And then I moved on to the Knights from the 2003 season, and then played with the Knights all the way through till 2011.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. 2012 was when they didn't play, and then you went to the
2011 was
Warriors.
the last season I played, and then 2012 was the first season I played at Warriors, and then I finished my playing days in 2017 for playing at the Warriors.
Cool.
So that's been my history.
So before we go, I do want to talk about your transitions because it's something we talk about a lot, right? But before we get into that, position. So tell me about, like, when you turned up, were they straight away, you're this 6'4" big bloke, you're a lineman,
pretty much.
what happened?
My first year I got dumped on defensive line.
That's what I thought would happen.
You're a one tech.
Were you interior D lineman?
I was a one tech. They're like, you're a nose, your job is to hit the center, and whoever else is going to come and double team you and just hold on to them. Don't let them release off the other block. So that was my job, was to eat up double teams. I didn't, like, my stats weren't particularly good. I had no idea what I was doing. But the coolest thing was I did score a touchdown in that very first season on a block punt. So
are you joking me? I never knew this, Kev.
Oh yeah, so I scored a touchdown that first season. So I'm like, I was like, this game's easy. Look at that, I can score touchdowns. Anyone can score touchdowns.
So talk me through that play. Did you block it? Surely you didn't block it.
I didn't block it. One of the safeties come on the outside as the rush guy, managed to block it, and then I just happened to get through, sort of a rumbling, picked it up, and we went for the touchdown. No, it wasn't a field goal. It was a punt. It was a punt. A block punt.
Yeah, punt. And how far did you have to run to score?
It was probably 3 yards max.
So you just about did it then?
Yeah, just about. I was out of breath. I needed the oxygen after I finished.
Yes. Lay down with your legs up on the sideline.
I didn't realise the significance at the time. Literally all the D linemen that were on the field jumped on me and were going nuts. All the O-line ran on the field, jumped on me, were going nuts. I didn't realise the significance of a fat guy scoring a touchdown. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it was ruined on you. The moment was ruined on you.
I was like, this is perfectly normal. This is what everyone
wasted, does. Yeah. I never knew that, mate. That's so funny. Yeah, so that was your first. How was it a whole season you played in
Yeah,
D-line.
yeah. So I played for that first season. I played like D line, and then when they were low on numbers, I'd slot in on the O line. But I didn't
And
really
were
know.
you starter instantly, or was
No. I sort of rotated in. I didn't start, but on
yeah,
defense, it's a little bit different. Like you say, you might start a certain number of people 1 week and then change it the next week,
yeah,
depending
yeah.
against
There's a
the
lot
team
more
you're playing.
rotation, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a little bit more rotation. So no, I wasn't a starter from the outset. I was just learning the game.
yeah.
But then in my
And
second year,
how good
I
were the Blitz then? Like, what sort of records were they getting? Win-loss records in a season at that time.
probably 500 at best. So
Yeah,
like I remember my last year at Blitz, they went 0-10. We got absolutely destroyed. But it happened. It goes through cycles. The team.
yeah.
But,
Well,
but,
and
but
so did that factor into this? Takes us on nicely. Did that factor into you leaving the Blitz?
not their win-loss record. It was more to do with coaching staff at the time. Like you say, I've been playing 3-4 years. I wasn't enjoying it as much as
Yeah,
I was at that club, and I'd been exposed through some sort of like through the GB Lions and through Team England and Team South. I'd met different people. I've met different coaches, and felt maybe it was time for a bit of a change of scenery, and that's how I moved. That's how I moved from one team to the other.
yeah. So, and okay, so then you were playing for the London Blitz. Where were you living at the time? Were you Slough then?
Yeah, I was living in Slough, so just
Yeah,
going back to it, I was like starting on D line. But the time I actually really sort of fell in love with offensive line was when in my second year, where we got a new coach who'd come over from Canada, a guy called Lee Roski, who up until recently was head coach of the Belgian Barbarians national team, so
yeah,
their national football program. And he was an offensive lineman from Canada. He played college football. He'd had an injury to his neck, but he came over and coached the whole O line, and he completely opened my eyes to what some people may look at as a position for fat guys, the big guys, the slow guys, the non-athletic guys. He actually showed us that it's a position that you can actually be. You can be the dominant person. You can go out there and you can take control and you can put your stamp on it and stuff like that. And I just remember watching it in one drill. We were. It was like a one-on-one pass rush drill, and I think we were just going through the motions. And he just popped the hump with us. We basically stood in, took someone's helmet, put it on, and then made a D end rush him. And he literally grabbed that guy's chest plate, flipped his hands like this, and then thumped him on his head. And he went, "That's how you do it." And I was just like, "What?" I was like, "You can do that to people?"
yeah. That's quite interesting. So what? So did he recruit you to the O line, or did you want to follow him and you made the
No. It was more of a numbers game. Like we were
right?
low on big bodies, so we would have people that were we'd have the 5 O linemen. I think there was 6 of us throughout there, so there was 6 O line, and
Yeah,
then between 3 or 4 of us, we would then rotate into the D line rotation as well.
got it.
So they had a couple of guys who were D line only, but then us bigger guys would rotate in on the interior of the defense. But then after that, I kind of like really fell in love with O line because it just seemed to fit what I could do, and my skill set and my understanding for the game grew massively once I got that.
And so how long? So how many years were you playing at the Blitz as O line before you moved and changed
I
teams?
think it was 3 years because I did 2001, 2002. So yeah, I did 3 years at O line with Blitz
And
before I
was
moved
that
to.
did you have the? And you said there was a coach in. So you, did your positional coach change in that time, and that's why you then
Yeah, it
decided
did.
to.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, he was over here on like working as a teacher, and then his career took him to another place, so he left. And then obviously coaching people changed and stuff like that, and that's kind of like it. It just didn't feel right, so that's when I started to look for a different pastures.
So okay, so you're looking for another club. Why did you go to the Knights, and how did you find them? And you know,
I'd met a lot of the guys from the Knights through Team England. So I think Coach Rains was head coach of Team England at the time. And I tried out, made it onto the squad. I think they had 3 or 4 offensive linemen there, and their O line coach Tango Lockwood was the offensive line coach for Team England. So like we were talking. I mean, the thing was, they didn't even actually recruit me. They just came in and we talked football, did the football stuff. And then come the end of that year, I think they made it to the Brtiball final. And I was watching them and I was like, yeah, I think this would be a good fit for me. And then I went down and sort of just slotted in straight away. It was quite a nice fit.
So how many years had you played before you got into Team England and tried out and got into them?
I think it must have been my second year playing offensive line.
Oh.
Yeah, so my second year, I mean, I wasn't what I'd consider a great player at that time or whatever. But I was a big lump and I could be coached, and that's what I felt I developed as a player that way. So I wasn't anywhere what I'd consider a good player, but I was good enough for people to go. Sometimes you have a work in progress and you go, this guy's got potential, and you want to work with that person, and that's what kind of happened, really.
Yeah. And so, what when you played for Team England, I've heard of it. Like it was never around when I played. When I started playing in the UK, and was it what sort of opponents were you playing? Because I knew there was a huge England-Scotland rivalry.
Yeah, it was. I think
were you involved in those games?
Yeah, one of the games we played was against Scotland. I know the previous year before I was involved in it, they'd gone over to Ireland and they played a game in Ireland. But the year I did it was I think it was like the last year that they did sort of formation. So we had played that game in Scotland, up in Scotland.
Did you guys win?
Do you know what, Steve? It's so long ago, I can't remember. I know this sounds really bad, but I played 19 seasons of senior football, and these people go, oh well, I remember this game and this was the score and all that sort of stuff. There's some games I'm like, I can't even remember if we won.
Yeah,
I know it's bad, but that's generally how it is. I can't remember what that was.
So a question from the comments is: have you and I ever met head on the field? Only in practice. I don't think we've played against each other ever, have we?
I'm pretty sure we've been on opposing teams, but I think we've never actually met because I think injuries have prohibited that. Like I think one year where I was at Warriors and we played Knights, I don't know if you were still had your knee issues and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, because I was out for a bit with that. And then coming back, I kept getting muscular issues because my muscles had to adjust to the knee brace and the new knee. And
what you mean you had to get muscles?
Hey,
you mean you had to get muscles? That was the problem.
Yeah. So no, I mean we come up against each other a lot in training.
Yeah, definitely. Loads of training. You were an absolute prick. You were an absolute prick.
Yeah. I can remember because obviously we lived together, right?
Yeah.
And but like we'd obviously talk about training before and after training, but at training we didn't like each other because we were opposite sides of the ball. But we were like, it wasn't like hate, but I just didn't care. Like I was like, and you've got the same mentality of like, I'm here to win and play. I don't care about our allegiances, and I can remember us talking at one point at home, and we were saying like we were getting close to. I remember we started pre-season, we'd probably gone past like the camp point, and we were getting ready to play games. We didn't feel we were fired up enough, and you said, "Let's just have a fight. Let's just start fighting training."
And
it never got into a proper fight, but we started arguing. Everyone's like pulling each other away, and no one swung punches or anything. But sometimes
you need to do something to get the boys fired up, haven't you?
Yeah. I remember there was the whole obviously where a lot of the Olineman and me and a few others were doormen working for Tango, actually, Coach Tango's security company. We'd sort of bond over that, like if we were working at a venue and there was a big fight, we'd be like, psych you up.
When you're getting ready before the game or before practice, you talk about the stuff that happened the night before, and you're like, I'm ready now.
Yeah. So on that, actually, I'll bring this one up straight away. What's your? Do you have, and what is, if you do have one, any pre-game ritual? I know. Without you saying anything, Kev is someone that sits in the changing room for hours on end, and it does my head in. He doesn't come out. He's like a typical starting O-lineman. Like the five of them just sit there, wait till they get their ankles strapped, then sit there even more.
We're not like you, like Mr.
I turn up ready. I don't even go in the changing room.
You used to be Mr. Fuck It Wanker. You'd have your lower set on and everything under your joggers, and you'd literally just have to take off your joggers, and you were ready to play.
That's
and
right. I'd have my lowers on. Yeah, I drive there with my lowers on. Yeah,
I like to build up the momentum when we're in the locker room.
I just wanted to get out there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's your ADHD though, mate, isn't it? You just can't slow down for any reason or another. Yeah. So I used to enjoy just being in the locker room, getting ready, and finally wait until you hear that 1 minute to go, and then you're like, right, let's get ready, let's go and walk out. But it's all part of, like, on game day, it's all part of the psychology as well, isn't it? If you get the 6 or 7 biggest lads all strutting out all at once, you do know sometimes some of the teams look across and they see, oh, look, the team don't look that big. And then when the big boys come out, they go, oh, shit. Oh, no.
So it was all for mind game. It was all a ploy, was it?
It was, yeah, but that's probably where we actually diverged from, like, getting along so much, because my pre-game ritual was completely different to your pre-game ritual.
Yeah. Just I'd get annoyed at players that weren't out. Like, I'd be like, it doesn't take long to put your clothes on, do your kit on, like, just get it. You know, like, it'd do my head in. But yeah, definitely. And like, but did you have anything that, because, like, I know that some players like to listen to music, or they'll go and, like, obviously we had a couple of religious guys that would pray, or, you know, there was there'd be some people that had certain things they wanted to eat and all that sort of stuff. Did you have anything like that?
It varied. I mean, there's always you got to at least have 3 dumps before you leave the house. That's usually a standard one, because you're that.
I see that as you're scared. That's how I interpret that. I've never understood it.
That's excitement, man. That's excitement. That's like
no, it's not. What are you like when you go to Alton Towers?
Like a kid, I have to have 3 before I go on Tyler.
I've got to run up again.
That's if I can fit. But no. So pre-game in the locker room, it would just literally be just get ready, chatting rubbish to everyone that's around you, and then generally I'd listen to a bit of music. Towards the end, music became more of a cue for me to start switching into game modes. Right. So I'd like have my headphones in and stuff like that, and then eventually, I mean, what was quite good at like some teams, they actually have guys. There'd be one guy who'd bring a stereo in, and then they play the music, so you didn't have to have your headphones on. So you can actually start, like, building the whole team up. Sometimes it helps to have your own trigger track, so ones that you always listen to start making you go, right, it's game time.
Yeah.
And
I know certainly from playing, like, I know people preparing their own way. It's just important that by the time, you know, we hit the crescendo at the right time and everyone's ready to go, you know, like, and like, so I get that. It didn't stop me getting frustrated with people, but I do, you know, I understand that side of the game. But also I think, you know, you, like I said before in when I introduced you, you're a leader. You're someone that leads the team, that leads behaviors, attitudes, you know, you're someone that will look after players if people have a bad play or they're feeling nervous or whatever. Like, you've always been someone that addresses that. You know, you're one of the main people that will. How did that happen for you? Because surely, you know, you didn't start there, right? Like,
no, of course not. And it was more to do with confidence, like, in myself, believing that I was actually a semi decent player. Like, if I'm not confident in something, I'm not necessarily going to be the first one to speak up. We've all played with guys who are absolute trash players who don't know what they're doing, yet they want to be the biggest hype man, and you have everyone go, oh God, that guy's talking again. I never wanted to be that guy, so I kind of waited, and I learned from people, guys like Tango at the Knights, DC, Barbara, and those guys actually understand, like, you don't have to be a hoorah man and whoop and holler and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just about how you carry yourself and how you play the game that you lead, and people follow that. So that's where I've always tried to be a leader, is actually try and play the game in the right way. Like, I used to play with an intensity that I know some people hated me for, but that's how I believe you should play the game. You either go all out or you don't play. It's as simple as that. And that's one of the reasons why I hung up my pads when I did, because I knew I couldn't give the game the commitment and the intensity that I believe the game deserved. So I was like, if I can't do it 100%, then I'm not going to do it at all.
Are you someone? So this is something that I've got a thought process on. Are you someone who feels that if you don't give 100% in the game, in any part of it, that you're actually more likely to get hurt?
Yeah, I think so. I think like people who generally, I mean, people get hurt. It's an unforgiving sport. It's get hurt. But I do believe if you don't go out there with the right mindset that you're going to do that, you can end up getting yourself and get hurt.
Yeah, see, I've always had that about me. Like, I think you, yeah, like if you give anything less than all of your effort while you're on the field,
Yeah,
you're more like you're a target for people. You know,
yeah,
like, but also your technique isn't as sound. You take
yeah,
longer to do stuff. You're more likely to pull muscles. You know, like, and so I've always been, you know, that's been like drilled into me since I was a kid. Like
yeah,
everything at 100 miles an hour, everything is your
yeah.
best effort. And
Yeah, like you say, a lot of coaches used to say, look, I don't care if you muck up. If you muck up at 100 miles an hour, we can correct what you do wrong. The one thing that they can't coach you is effort and intensity. They can
yeah,
teach you technique, but they can't teach you the desire to run faster, run harder, and hit harder. And you have to have that from within.
and I think another thing coaches want that they can't teach you is conviction, like not being caught between two things. So, like, especially you as a lineman, if in front of you things are shifting about and you're hearing different calls and you hear something, you know,
Yeah,
the play's audible or it's flipped or whatever, you need to know. I'm going to go and do this one thing. I'm not going to try and do two things because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. You just think, bollocks, I'm going to do that one thing and I'm going to absolutely nail it.
sometimes you have to commit to it. And I know there's been many a play where I've misread the alignment, or I've misheard the audible, or I've forgotten the play, but I've gone out and just gone flying into the wrong guy, and the guy that I should have blocked has blown the play up. But I would rather do that than be the guy that just goes on the snap, just stands there, and two people run past him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That would be more embarrassing than going, I'm really sorry, I hit the guy on the double team that I shouldn't have done, and
yeah,
the guy that got through clean mine, rather than not hit anyone, and then all of a sudden two guys are jumping over you.
yeah. And yeah, because you know, like if you're then watching the tape back with a coach, they'll say, "Look, well, you messed up your assignment there, Kev." But you're like, "Yeah, but did you see what I did to the other guy?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like saving grace. Sometimes that might get you a hit sticker when you've actually messed up.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but that's absolutely right. Like I think it's the effort, and it's also not being caught in two minds. Like just decide what you're going to do and do it. And obviously, you know, me as I typically have played linebacker, but I sometimes have played safety. And your decision point is later, right? Like it's not as soon as a lineman, particularly an O lineman. You know, you make a decision pre-snap, really. Or there's very little to go on once the ball's moved, right? For you guys. But for me, I've got a little bit more to go on. I've got more keys to look at. I can take, you know, if I'm linebacker, I've got maybe one or two steps of people to do stuff. I can see if a lineman's popped up or dropped back, or,
if you're a student of the game, particularly for O-line, if you're a student of the game, you should be able to anticipate what you expect them to do from their assignment and their alignment. You should know what defense, if you're running a run play, or even on a pass play, what the D lineman and the linebackers' gap responsibilities are. And yes, they sometimes twist it and they change that sort of stuff. But that's what you have to do by studying video beforehand to understand what stunts do they run. So you could go 70% of the time it's just going to be a straight up outside rush, but 30% of the time you could shoot inside. So you have to make sure you know and you anticipate. And that's where I feel learning the game is important. And I just remember at one session we had with GB Lions, and we were run like the guy, you'd have the offensive line in and they'd go, right, we want to scout D. So the other O lineman would stand in at D tackle and linebacker. And I just remember one lineman, I'm like, right, I need you to go and play Will. And they're like, who's that? And I'm like, what? They're like, where do I need to stand for that? And I'm like, if you're trying to defeat a defense and you don't know where a weak side linebacker is going to stand and what his general gap responsibility is based upon that alignment, you're going to struggle in the game, particularly when they start throwing in stunts.
Yeah.
So like you say, actually educating yourself to say, look, you need to understand. The best way to become the best offensive lineman is to understand what D linemen and linebackers do.
Yeah.
And then it makes your job so much easier.
Cool. So we've had a couple of pre-game poo comments. One saying that it gives you +5 acceleration.
At least +5. At least
It's
+5.
nonsense. I'll never get my head around it. Adam, another one. Got Adam speaking a lot tonight. He said, "Did you ever talk to an opponent? As I always used to try and make the other team laugh, just because they used to hate it." Adam, I think that's some Div 2 shit that us Prem guys don't understand.
I mean, trust me. There's been some talk against other teams that we've had, and then you get some guys who just chat and don't shut up. But then actually throwing out the occasional sledge or whatever you want to, or smack talk that you want to give someone at the right moment in time can actually destroy another person's confidence. Like that. And I've had plenty of time. Well, we had one guy who came down to the Warriors, had a few sessions with us, went to the Blitz, and then when we were playing them at their ground at Hertfordshire University, and I mean we put a mass ton of points on them. And one of our running backs is running a long play, so we're doing the fat man jog, chasing it down from behind, looking so interested. There's me and Victor Bama, and this D lineman who'd done that. I just remember Victor going, "Man, you picked the wrong team," and that just absolutely just killed that moment in time. You could just go, "Oh no, that must have stung so bad."
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for it, and I think sometimes if you can make them, not necessarily make them laugh, but if you can actually say something that makes your boys laugh, that's going to be the biggest thing going. If you can actually say something to a guy and completely get them off their game, that's
it reminds me of a time I was playing rugby in Portsmouth, and we were playing this team, and they had this Scottish guy, and he was a little bit older, and he was really stocky, quite muscular, but quite short, even shorter than I am. And
they let dwarfs play rugby.
Eh?
They let dwarfs play rugby.
Yeah, it was a dwarf league.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I went to tackle him, and he passed the ball off, and I shouldn't have done this, but I put him in a headlock and threw him on the floor, right? And then the ball sort of went out of bounds, and there was it's not called a throw in, is it? What's it called when you throw the ball in rugby? Line out. Yeah. So there was a line out, and then we're all walking towards it, and he's going on. I was 10 yards in front of him, sort of jogging to it, and he's trying to moan at me. And then as everyone's lining up, he goes, "Ref!" I was playing scrum half. So he's like, "No, number 9 just grabbed me around the fucking neck," and I was like, "That's bollocks, ref. He ain't got a neck," because he was this big and that is it, mate. Yeah, he would both teams creased up because there were so many people stood there. Loads of them heard it. They all creased up, and he just went, "Oh, shut up!" And that, he did nothing, and it just crushed him. He ended up going off because everyone just kept laughing.
Yeah. Some of that, sometimes you just got to go. That's it. I'm going home. I just seen in the comments that Victor thinks he's being a ghost in the comments, but Victor, we've already talked about your +5 acceleration.
Yeah, what's up with him?
I know.
He's upset that I didn't call him out as guys. Just so everyone knows watching this, it was Vic Amzi that made that comment, and we're so pleased he did it, and he's hilarious. And well done, Vic. Go Vic. He has chucked another question in there, Kev.
What's the final straw that made me retire?
Yeah, what? Because you ended on a high, right? Was that the goal? Was that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, when I talked about actually giving the game and giving commitment to both club and country 100%, I couldn't do it. My life outside of football got busier. I was working in a new job that had me traveling around the world a lot. So in my last year, I missed probably the most games I've ever missed during the season because I was away in different countries on business over weekends and stuff like that. And I just couldn't commit like I wanted to. So I was like, I'm either all in or I'm all out. And that's the reason I decided to hang them up. Plus I was old as hell. So it made logical sense.
Well, I'm going to do Tony's questions now because he did one earlier, but let's start with this one. He just posted it saying, your favourite O-lineman to watch in the NFL and why?
Technically, I love watching Tyron Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. That guy is another level athlete in terms of what he does. His like the snatch technique that he uses, where he just knocks down a rusher's arm and they end up eating AstroTurf, is just unbelievable. And the thing is, he wears an elbow brace, but it's actually a knee brace because they can't get an elbow brace big enough for his arm. But yeah, that's my guy. It's just watching him technically as a player is just another level. And then I also like watching Lane Johnson as well, because he's a real like technical kind of purse player. Like you say, it's not all just about size and brawn. It's actually an awful lot of technique.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the questions are now coming in, flying in, so I don't even need to go through my set yet. I will get back to my stuff, but I like while people are asking questions, mate. Let's jump on them, right? Okay. So Tony touched on this earlier. We did flash it up, but we didn't get you to answer it. But do you have and what is it a best memory in Brtiball?
On the field, I've got a few. One of them was winning the championship with the Farnham Knights in 2004, or the PA Knights at the time.
Yeah,
finally beating the Olympians after their years and years of domination.
Winning just years and years. They'd won 9 back-to-back championships. And this was their 10th, and the Knights took it from them on their 10th.
They did, yeah. And then
they still got a decade ring because they won it the year after, didn't they?
Yeah,
they went and got a decade ring. If you look at that decade ring, there's the 2004's missed out.
There was a number missing. So I mean, but we had the opportunity to win it the next year and we didn't. And I actually think that was the 2005 final was a better game in terms of level of football, but the result was just wrong for us.
Yeah, I remember. So that was when Coach Rains recruited me. Me and him spoke about playing football, and it was shortly after that, and he was telling me about the game. Like the Knights were leading, and then the O's came back quite late on.
Unbelievable game. And then probably the same with. It's up there with Warriors' first national championship in 2012.
Do you know I enjoyed that one myself? We've talked about this a lot, haven't we?
Yeah. Or the one in 2015 with the last second field goal at Allianz Park in North London, where Ian Jackett kicked a monster field goal for the win.
And it wasn't that the one where it was like the blitz special teams coordinator just had a brain fart right at the end.
Yeah, they called an onside kick.
An onside kick.
Only told the kicker to kick onside, so none of his the coverage team were aware of it, and that gave us a short field, which then allowed us to go downfield.
Yeah, I can remember watching it, and that was like this glimmer of hope, and you guys capitalised on it. That was an exciting end.
You know what the mad thing about that was? As soon as that happened and we got the football, I literally, as we walked on the field, every single person in that offensive huddle, you looked at them and not a single person you could see, they were scared. They weren't like, this is what we got to do. We literally got on the field and we were like, we're going to score. We knew we were either going to get a field goal or we were going to get a touchdown and we were going to win the game. There was no doubt in anyone in that huddle.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome. Sometimes you have those moments like they call it when you're in your flow state where everything just feels right. And that drive didn't go perfectly. We didn't get in to score a touchdown. We didn't bust it, whatever. Ian got injured, then had to go off for a play and then come back.
That's right. Yeah.
But there was just something that just felt right about it, and it was meant to be, and it did. So that was pretty cool.
So I think people watching this might think I'm a Warriors fanboy, and you know all too well that I'm not, right? Like I see the Warriors as competition.
When I turned up to your house to meet your daughter for the first time, and I had my full Warriors gear and my championship rings on, you looked so disappointed in me, and it was worth it just for that.
I remember DC because DC went there as well, and I can remember he had this thing for and it was went on for years. Every time I went to his house to talk to him about something, he'd make sure he had his Warriors hoodie on when he answered the door. So the first thing I said wasn't like hello, I would just be like, oh fuck off, wind me up. Yeah. I can remember us going out for a meal together, and both of you wore Warriors stuff, and I was like, oh, just piss off.
It's almost too easy with you sometimes, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get wound up so easy about it. But credit where it's due. I did, and the reason I really I've got good memories of that first win.
Yeah.
Is because for me it was like, so I was watching the game on the there was a live stream, and I was actually you could tweet in, and I tweeted in a couple of times because they'd so you'll know this story, but they'd split you and DC up. So DC was, I think, left guard and you were right tackle. I may have that wrong, but you were either side of
the first year we played, they put DC on the left hand side and me on the right hand side, and we didn't win that final in 2012.
Yeah. And then
in 2013 they stuck us on the same side.
And I remember watching it, and I remember saying,
so all those Warriors linemen that are listening out there, left side for the win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is why I like it, because it was an all Knights line, but also you gave it to the Knights running back Kingsley. So it was Kingsley running behind you and DC, and you were just churning it up the field. And I was getting so excited watching it.
I wouldn't say it was the Knights. I would say it was former Knights players who were your friends.
I wouldn't say it was the Knights because this is his live stream, but that's exactly what it was. Everyone that watched it knows the Knights won that Brtiball.
Is that what it was?
But no, like I think that's why I got so excited. Obviously, I knew you three. It was just so good that they'd like aligned you, and I was like, and I remember tweeting saying they're going to win like this. Like they're not going to stop those three. They can't stop them. They got nothing for it. Bang, bang! You just smashed them up, and like. I'd advise anyone that is, that hasn't seen it or has seen it to go back and watch it and just watch the last. Certainly, it was like the last, I think, halfway through the third quarter onwards.
Second
just
half,
nailed everyone.
Yeah, we started running. We started putting a real power running game. Like so, we'd been setting them up with leads to the left hand side, kick outs to the left hand side, and then. Because you started to get everyone biting down, their linebackers biting down, we then hit them with the counter tray, which is one of my favourite plays in the whole world, because I get a massive run up and I get to hit a linebacker or a D lineman, and it's just brilliant, because usually we don't get to have a massive run up to hit someone, and when you do, it can be almost like you say, you can take people off their feet, and that's how we just started running that, and we really started churning up some serious yards on the ground, which then opened up things over the top for Jerome and Romain, because people were so scared of the running game that your safeties and everything were cheating down, and we were able to beat them over the top. I mean, the last touchdown, I remember they broke the huddle and their linebackers are going to the DBs, watch the deep ball, and then over the top, Romain catches his fourth touchdown.
That bottom corner of the end zone, Romain was unreal that game.
Yeah. Yeah, he was unbelievable. So yeah. So like you said, there's some good stuff on there. There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a good game. So let's move on from the. So yeah, like I said, like it's a love hate. I respect the Warriors, but yeah, I hate the fact that like all my mates went there.
that's what hurt you the most.
I think I'm just jealous I didn't go with you.
Yeah, that's deep down. I think that's what it was.
I'm just bitter. Yeah, you come back with rings, and I was like, yeah. We just won Div 1. Anyway, right. This is from Liz. Liz is based over in the States. And it's someone that we've been talking to recently. She has got a role with the NFLPA with the Carolina Panthers. So she looks after retired players under the so really well connected, and she's just asked a question to you. So what advice do you have for a short lineman apart from them biting ankles? So what advice would you give me if I said I'm going to play line? Kev, how do I do it?
I'd say, are you going to try and be Kerry? That's the question I'd have to ask you straight off the bat.
Be Kerry?
Kerry.
Yeah.
Or I'd basically say is, for like, if you feel height isn't a disadvantage, just look at DC. He did really, really well, and he's not even 6 foot tall. But just it's literally learn to get your hands inside.
DC is like a millimetre off 6 foot tall, and you guys gave him stick because he.
Yeah, because he's 5 foot.
He's not a short man by any stretch.
Yeah, he's not 6 foot. He's not 6 foot. If they did memes back in the day, he would be the meme about short guys.
Sorry, yeah, go on. But yeah, you can't use him as like DC's a tremendous lineman, and you can't use him as the example of the short lineman. Surely,
yes, I can.
Surely there's.
I can and I will. I can and I will, and that's the. No, I'd say if you're short, it's not necessarily about your actual height. It's normally to do with your limb length that actually helps. If you've got longer arms, you're usually going to be all right because you don't want someone getting into your chest. But it's just basically learning the proper technique. Anyone can play the position, and if you learn the proper technique, then you should be able to do a pretty good job. There's no, everyone goes, oh, blocking's so technical and blah. It's not. Blocking is just getting in the way of someone and slowing them down from doing their job. So it doesn't matter how you do it. So sometimes the best blocks you might actually make is if you're running a stretch away from you, and all you do is you run in front of the trailing defensive lineman. You don't necessarily touch him, or you barely touch him, but you do enough that it slows him up that he can't chase the play down.
Yeah.
So that's what blocking is. Blocking is getting in the way of someone.
And remember, in the tackle box, you don't have to hold. You can smash him in the back of the head.
Yeah, if they turn round, you can just run. If you're going from point A to point B and someone's in the way, then that's their fault. And I see Liz says over there, height over here is a factor, but that's true everywhere. It's they want the biggest, fastest, strongest guys, and unfortunately in the NFL, if you're 5'8", you're probably never going to become an offensive lineman in the NFL. But if you're playing in the UK, you can still play at a good level, like you say, in Division 1, Division 2, or even Premiership if you're a bit undersized, as long as you've got good enough technique.
Yeah. I assume you understand the reference here, Kev.
Yes, I do. It says, so Simon seems to think that you talk about the Knights as Warriors and they're interchangeable. And then he's asked if my favourite team is for GCU. That's Gotham City University for people that don't know.
To tell that story.
Yeah, so a few years ago, Warriors were asked to film a football scene for a movie. Didn't think anything of it, and we're like, okay, cool, yeah, no worries. So we do some rehearsals and things like that, and then sort of like when we get to actually filming it, we're like, why is this being filmed at Warner Brothers? And it turns out that it was for a scene to do with Victor Stone, the cyborg character in Justice League. We spent 2 days filming there, and they cut the scene from the movie. But hopefully, it's going to come back in the Schneider cut that's coming out on HBO Max next year.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah, that would be quite cool. So yeah, well, and because I remember you sending pictures of like the kit. It was like a yellow. Was it yellow and black?
I do want to put a disclaimer out there. It wasn't pictures from the filming. It was pictures that were gathered from the internet, because when we got to the studios, everyone had to hand in their mobile telephone.
Right, yeah. So you didn't like sneakily take them.
No, it wasn't. No, I want to clear that up before.
Sorry, I was dropping you in it.
It was a black and yellow Steelers, Pittsburgh Steelers-esque type of kit.
So I don't like how the fact you've skimmed over your involvement in the footage, because you've described to me before in detail how it happened, but the play that you got involved with.
It was a stunt sequence where the quarterback makes an amazing touchdown play, and there's a calamity of errors, and I was lucky enough that I got to absolutely smash the living hell out of a stuntman who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it did look really cool on the playbacks that we saw and stuff like that, but unfortunately no one's seen it as of yet. It's been on the cutting room floor.
Man, I hope in that new edit that comes out, it's
I hope so too. I hope so too. You've seen some teaser trailers, and it seems to be bits in there, which is good.
Yeah, Liz has just popped up and said that's why her son's coming over to the UK. So her son's coming over to play college in the UK this coming season. Yeah, so up in I think he's going to Sunderland. I don't know if it's confirmed or whatever, but like that's where they're looking. But yeah,
he'll have a great time up in Sunderland. He'll learn everything about the British culture up in Sunderland.
Yeah. Right. So we talked about your change from the Blitz to the Knights. Yeah. Why did you then change from the Knights to the Warriors? I know the answer, but why did you then change?
The Knights went through a real transition, and there was a lot of internal wrangles in terms of coaching and management and stuff like that. And there was a bit of an internal sort of rift that nearly it did kind of rip the team apart, and the team needed to sort of take a step back and not compete for a year. But I was in my early 30s and I didn't want to stop playing for a year because my worry would be that I wouldn't get back into it. So I I went to the nearest Premiership team to me, which was the London Warriors, and was welcomed with open arms. And I think a lot of people see the Warriors from the outside looking in one way, but then when you're actually on the inside looking out, they're a very, very different team. And I think there's guys who've come from other organisations to the Warriors who can testify to what I'm saying, in the fact that they're an amazing, like the Knights were an amazing bunch of guys. I've got friends, like I said, from you for like what 16 or 14, 15 years now, DC and Tango since like the early 2000s, and I've got friends on the Warriors as well now who I've been friends with now for sort of like 8-9 years. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to still keep competing at a high level, and I was 31 when I went there, 31, 32. So I wanted to keep playing at a high level, and I didn't want to take a step down, because I did that in 2007. The Knights were played in Division 1, and the level of football wasn't for me. It was just
we went 10-0, but 12-0 if you count the playoffs.
We went 10-0, and we were putting 50 points on everyone every game, and it just seemed it just seemed and felt too easy, and I wanted to challenge myself. Because, like I said, as I've said to you, I want to give everything 100%. I want to play at the highest level I can do, and I want to push myself as a player every time.
Yeah. So I want to touch on something that you or elaborate on something you touched on then. Why? And because I think it's still the case now, right? And it's something that I know the Warriors are trying to sort of do something about. But why do the Warriors have this image of that they're a closed shop, and that you're an elitist and no one that it's not a welcoming place or a family type club? Why do you think that is from the outside? I know. I know the truth because through you, but
it's because you're our number one fan in the official fan club for the Warriors.
No, mate, that killed me. But yeah,
that's why Gridiron Hub's black and white. I get it. It makes sense.
I'm going to change your colours tomorrow, but
it's all right. Nobody noticed. Don't worry. Just style it out. No one knows. I think it's because the team is actually so built from not actually talking up ourselves, not promoting the team, and that resonates all the way through. And everyone there is given an opportunity to go, do you know what? If you come in, put the hard work in, you will actually do well for the team. And some people, it might take a couple of years for them to break into the starting lineup. Some guys slot in straight away. It just depends what type you are, the type of person you are, and how you feel in there. But it's very much what I consider a band of brothers mentality. So like there's the culture where they're like, we're all out for each other, and everybody else is out to knock us off our throne, or everybody else wants to beat us. And that builds a very strong, and what can feel like a closed off environment if you're not in it. It's actually probably one of the strongest environments, and it's a team that's actually very welcoming. If you go down there, I mean, I remember my first few sessions turning up with a red lid from the Knights, and I could literally see the D linemen licking their lips, going, "I'm going to kick this guy's ass." And Coach Errol as well. I introduced myself to him first practice session. I went, "Hi, Coach. My name's Kevin," and his response to me was, "I don't remember names, son." I was like, "Oh," like that. But I went out there and I practiced and I played like I did, and I earned their respect. So, like now, Errol and I are really close, and whenever I see him, I always give him a hug and have a catch up and find out about each other's families. All the D linemen that were there, guys like Ade, J. Cole, Niall, Alex Haldane and stuff like that, they all wanted to knock me off my perch, and some of them got better of me. I got better of some of them, but the fact that I wouldn't quit and I didn't wimp out in that situation earned their respect. And that's what it's about, really. It's just a respect thing. It's like, we won't give you any respect until you've earned it. And as much as the Warriors are turning around and saying, "Oh, we hate the blitz," and blah, 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 they respect the blitz as well, because there's some legitimate ballers out there on other teams, and that's what it's about. It's guys who compete, and it's good to have that healthy rivalry. So from the outside, if you're not on the inner sanctums or such, like, it can seem like a really cold, closed off place. But if you do something that adds value to the team and earns their respect, then people will welcome you with open arms.
So if you're not as well, I've got to ask the question, and I think I know the answer. Well, I do know the answer, but if you're not as good as a player as a DC, a Kevin Keohane, a Kingsley Ajogu, and you go and try and play for the Warriors, what sort of experience can you expect?
I mean,
will you have the same sort of thing?
Yeah, I think you will. I think if you go out there and you bust your hump on every drill, every rep, and give everything your all, when you're asked to do something and you give it your all, whether that's being sort of like coming in and going, right, it's fourth quarter mop-up duty, or even when they go, right, special teams practice. If you run 100 miles an hour down the field and you're the first one to touch the guy when they're making their return and stuff like that, people will respect you for that. Like, it's putting effort in. If you turn up and expect to be given a starting spot or expect to be given reps because you haven't earned them, then people won't respect you for that, and that's the difference. Everything in that is earned. And even if you are there's been guys at Warriors who I wouldn't consider players of what most people think are elite Warrior level players, but they've come in and they've done a job, and they've actually built themselves up from a fourth string or fifth string guy into a second or a first string guy. And it's all about how you develop and how much effort you put in, more than anything else.
So it is a place where people can develop and climb their ranks.
Totally. I think I'm not the best person to talk about it, because I went there quite late in my career and I was already quite a well-developed player. But I can tell you now, I became a better player for playing at the Warriors. I kept developing throughout my time when I was at the Warriors. And I know there were some of the younger guys, the Knights, who came down there, like Nick and Stuart Olive. And I don't believe, and I mean, they didn't necessarily break into the starting lineup, but I don't think they believe. I believe they didn't have a bad experience. I think it was a good learning experience for them. And I think you talk to Jordan, who's at the Warriors now, and he's probably told you about how he's had to work his way through it.
Like I said, I know the answer to it. I know it's all about effort there rather than skill level. Like, the skill level will come. It's about be willing, sort of thing. Like put the effort in and mold you. Be coachable. Be accountable, and we'll take care of the rest. But I think that they're also quite, like, from what I understand from Jordan as well, is they're quite honest with players who aren't quite there yet, and they'll say, look, you're not going to get any game time with us, but we want you to stick around. Learn the game, but they don't have a B team, but like they sort of say, like, you're part of the squad, you're part of the team, but you're not going to get on the field. And I actually admire that, because I've been on a number of teams where players aren't told that. They get frustrated. You get halfway through the season, they start playing up a little bit.
There's good communication from coaches to players of where they're at, where they see their future going, and how they're going to get to there. I remember one year I was in the locker room getting ready, because it was a bit of a trek to get into Selhurst most Sundays, so I was running late to one practice. And I remember there was two young lads who had been there in pre-season, sort of like dropped off around April, but then we were coming up to playoffs sort of like July time, and they hadn't been around for about 3 or 4 months, and they're in the change room getting changed. And I remember Tony Allen walking in, and he looked at them, he said, "What are you two doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're getting changed for practice." And he's gone, "Where have you been the last 3 months?" They're like, He's like, "Don't get dressed for practice." He goes, "Come back next year." So if you don't commit to the team, if you commit to the team, they will work with you, they will develop you, they will try and grow you as a player. But if you're just going to dip in and out to try and ride on the coattails of the hard work that everybody else has put in, you'll get called out on that as well.
And for the family side of the club, and this is where this, Steve, I was labelled #1 supporters club member, wasn't I? Because
you are earlier on, yeah. You branded the whole GRIDIRON hub with black and white. I mean, look at your hat.
So I attended the last Brtiball with Kev. I was Kev's +1, and he was invited to we had access to the Warriors, like, I don't know what would you call it? Their own little clubhouse that they were at. Was it like a VIP thing? I don't really know what it was.
It was a bar that no one at Baffa had thought to book. So the Warriors went, well, can we book it and we'll have our supporters and stuff.
So, but it was only for people associated with the Warriors,
Yeah.
So and so I said to Kev, "Oh, do you want to come and watch?" And he was like, "No, you can come with me and we'll go in." I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to be around Warriors," and I had a great time, and we had a good laugh with all the lads that were there. It was hilarious.
You liked it as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and I was like, and then, like there was always the fun, like the little jokes of like, like taking a piss out of each other like we would, but actually, I did get to see the family side of it. And one thing that really sticks out for me was we went on the field at the end, so when they'd won and they went up to the stands. I don't know if they went up the stands. I don't think they went up the stands there, did they?
It was all on the field.
It was awarded out on the pitch. But anyway, they got the trophy and obviously all celebrating. And there was all these pictures going. And there was this one point where they wanted everyone in. And when they said everyone, they were like, everyone. Like, so if you were associated to the club in any way, player, sideline staff, coach, fan, your wife, girlfriend, brother, and I remember Marvin Allen going, "Come on, everyone!" And it must have taken him like 4 or 5 minutes. Everyone just sort of stood there waiting. But
and you were like, "No."
I was like, "No, you don't want me in this picture." But yeah, I didn't get in it. But I remember thinking like, there's actually not a lot of clubs in that situation that would think to do that. Like to create that lasting memory for everyone. That collective, that collective image. And I thought it was actually a really nice thought out thing. And so I actually think, I don't know this for certain, but I think the Warriors are aware that they've got that. There's this perception and they, I think they try and do things to address it, but there's never going to be a huge effort for it. But also they don't want to lose that identity that you've just discussed, like that culture of, because that's why they're successful, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's they build a culture of them against us, which gives you that fighter mentality when it comes down to the close dog day games. But at the same time, they want everyone who's involved in it, because let's be honest, we give up a lot of our family time and stuff to commit and play football and things like that. So getting the families involved and saying, look, yeah, you've lost your husband, your boyfriend, or your partner for the last 9 months every Sunday, but this is what it's for and this is what it's all about. And I mean, and there's people within the club who haven't been involved in the club because they're unable to, but who are a huge part of the club. A good example is a guy called Ben Watson. So for years, when I first went to the Warriors, he was there, always at every practice, helping us out, doing this, that, and the other. And he had cerebral palsy, and he was the loveliest guy ever going. And then
I remember seeing Ben. Seeing him.
And then he got really sick. I don't know what it was. If he got a virus, it left him in a coma for quite a while. It left him unable to walk. And I
remember he ended up in a wheelchair, didn't he?
He ended up in a wheelchair, and I think in either 2014 or 2015, he was there and he was able to lift the trophy, which was such a momentous occasion for all of us. And the fact that you probably didn't notice it, but the amount of people that would go up to him, just seeing him on the sideline and step him up and shake his hand and say whatever and all that sort of stuff. And this is what it is. And he recently posted a picture of himself deadlifting 30 kilos after being so sick. And the amount of Warriors who commented on that was unbelievable. And I think that's testament to the culture that the team has got from people with, if you're one of us, you are one of us. If you're not one of us, you're not one of us. But it's not to say you can't be. You just have to show it and prove it to everyone who's there.
Yeah. One from an ex teammate of ours, Big Gavin Hart. Shout out to one of the best linemen ever in the UK, which is I assume he's talking about you.
Well, it could be you. I mean, you should be a lineman
now, So one thing I do want to before we move on to this Victor's asked about GB, but
I did
GB. I want to ask you about your journey to becoming I don't know what type of. Were you a club captain at the Warriors, or just a team captain, like an offensive captain? But you became a captain at the Warriors, right?
Yeah.
Within quite a short period of being there.
No, well, I mean,
Wow.
in my first,
No, was it the second year?
So no, it was in my second year.
Yeah.
So the first year I came in, and I just got my head down. I know how it works out. Like, you come in, you get your head down, and you just have to work and show and prove yourself to everyone and earn their respect. And then how it came about, it wasn't just a game day captain. It was sort of like it was a club captain. So generally, you had some guys that were key. And I just remember lining up to do warm-ups like during pre-season, like I always did with the rest of the team, and Coach Tony Allen just came up to me. He was like, "What are you doing there?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Stand up at the front." So I had to go and stand up at the front with the captains to lead the team stretch and all that sort of stuff. And then it just kind of went from there. Really, there was nothing, how would you say, formal or anything like that. Of, you've done a good enough job, you've proved yourself. Because sometimes it's actually the unsaid things, the fact that just going of, "What are you doing there? Get up there." That's enough for you to know that you've earned the respect, and that the people they want up front are the people they want up front. And that's pretty much how I became a captain for the team. Cool. It was that sort of, you say, it was that straightforward. "What are you doing here? Go and stand up the front."
Yeah.
And then guess what? I never left. I made sure I stood at the front every single time.
Yeah. Cool. Right, so let's get on. Well, before we go to GB, someone's asked, and I think this was inevitable, and it was always going to be Adam because he's got his tongue up to Vernon's ass at the moment. But he said, how good was Vernon Kay? Basically, calls him his best pal because Vernon tweeted. Vernon spoke about Adam in really in a really positive manner when he was on last week because Adam wasn't on the live stream because he was coaching and Vernon was like, "That's quality," loved it. So so he's now got this love for Vernon Kay.
Vernon was a good player. There's no shadow of a doubt. I mean, if you look at the number of picks that he got in key games, he was good. He was a good player, good solid player. Like I said, no spot on the Warriors roster is given. No starting spot for definite.
So even though he was Vernon Kay, he didn't walk in and he didn't command. It was an earned thing.
And I think he said it. I think the fact that no one gave a shit who he was, actually, I think he liked that. I think the fact that he came down and people would talk shit to him, would try and take his head off on a play and stuff like that, just because that's what we did. So yeah,
it always made me laugh was the Twitter action he used to get, like people saying like, "I'm going to kill you on Saturday or Sunday," It always get tweeted nonsense from players, wouldn't he? I remember that, and it was a lot laughable, of it was because that was obviously public and I could see it.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was like, oh god, like here we go. But the thing was, he just took it in his stride and he just went out there. And I think he proved, when you watch back the game film that's available, like on YouTube and stuff like that, he deserved this spot where he was doing it, and he was a baller.
Yeah, I thought he was a really good player. Gavin has just followed up. It was good to see me too. Good to see you too, Steve. Just to share that love. Thanks, Gav. Right, so let's get to your GB story.
Okay. So, what was my journey to representing GB? So, when I was at London Blitz, they had a coach there, a guy called Adrian Clemens, who run a really successful Blitz youth program in the future. But he basically put me forward and was suggesting that I go to GB tryout and things. They had a game against Finland in 2000, and he said, "These are the tryouts. Go along. I've spoken to the head coach. Go and do it." So I went to the tryout, got my ass kicked, and then luckily there was a real rift at the time in GB with regard to Birmingham Bulls and the London Olympians players. The game in Finland on Saturday night, and then the Olympians were playing the Mets on a Sunday, so a lot of the Olympians were coming out. So luckily for me, I got a spot because a few of the other guys didn't play, and I just took that opportunity to go, right, I've got an opportunity here. I've got to show what I can do and just work my arse off. And I got to room with a guy called Mark Hopkins, who used to play in the World League. He played for Sacramento for a number of years. He's dad to Sean Hopkins and Steve Hopkins, who both played for Bristol, and then Sean played for Blitz as well. And he kind of took me under his wing and just basically said, "This is what you need to do." He showed me how to, almost as a professional footballer, football player at that time. And I'll admit, when the game was done and we lost, and there was still time left in the fourth quarter, he came over and said to the coach, "Get the young kid in." And he got me a couple of series out there when I was like 20 years old. So from that's where it went. So there wasn't. So I did that in 2000, and then there was a little. GB kind of shut down for about 5 or 6 years, and nothing really happened. There was lots of internal politics going on in BAFA in terms of coaches and all that sort of stuff. And then I sort of played my next game for GB in 2008 against France in Amiens. No, sorry, there was 2005 before that. Tell a lie. There was a 2004 tournament that went out with a mishmash of players, and I wasn't involved in that because I wasn't asked, I hadn't been invited, and I wasn't aware of what was going on. I had stuff going on in my life. But then I played in the Group A tournament in 2005. We played 2 games against Germany and against Finland. The game against Germany was so eye-opening when their starting D-line were all NFL Europe players. And then in the fourth quarter, they changed off their starting D-line and they rolled on their second-string D-line, and that had 3 out of the 4 guys were NFL Europe players. So we got absolutely smashed to pieces. But this is how sometimes you learn and how you become better, is by actually playing against this top level crew. So that was in 2005 in Sweden, in Malmo, that tournament was. And then I played again in 2008, 2009. And then again, life kind of took over, and I sort of didn't do the international stuff until 2015, 2016, when we had the tournament at Worcester.
Yeah.
And I sort of threw my hat in the ring. Some of the Warriors guys were like, "We're doing it. You fancy it?" And I sort of contacted the coaches and went to the training camp and earned my spot that way. Like, I even said to the offensive line coach, Anthony Fitzpatrick, I said, "Look, I know I'm late to the party. I said, if you want to put me in with the 4s at camp, I'm happy to work my way up, and I'll prove to you that to where I want to go." And that's what happened, and that's what it was. So it wasn't sort of like straightforward. Like there was times I was in the program, there was times I was out of the program and stuff like that, because it's an amateur sport and life gets busy with careers, families, and all that sort of stuff. And so that's where I got. And then I'll have to admit, probably the best time playing for GB was those last few years, where in 2015, 2016 and 2017, like the team that they had around them then was really, really good. The vibe was really, really good. The energy was really good. And I think that one of the most fun times I've had playing for Great Britain was that tournament in Worcester back in 2016.
And the kits were good finally as well.
Yeah, that was the big thing for us. That was the big thing, rather than wearing a 1980s red
The
jersey,
red and blue
was just all over the place. But yeah, they finally got some nice kits, which was always a bonus as well.
Okay, so I've got a few more areas to talk about. So we talked about your best moments. What about your worst in the game?
Worst moments was probably that 2006 season where the Knights got relegated from Premiership to Division 1, because we just got absolutely smashed every game, and that really did suck. Probably one of the worst moments was actually me realising that I couldn't give the game what it needed anymore, and I had to hang up my kit. That was a hard decision to actually take, because I love this game as much as I might bitch and moan about practice and the time away and the cost and all that sort of stuff. I absolutely, I played it for 19 years. Like you say, you don't do something like that unless you genuinely love it, and that was a really, really hard decision to go, I can't do what I used to do. And I did want to bow out on top. I never wanted to be a player where everyone goes, "Oh, I remember when he was good."
Mm.
I like to think I was still pretty decent when I when I did retire. I don't think I was the best I ever was when I retired, but that's what it is. So that's probably my worst moments in football, if I'm pretty honest.
And what advice would you give to young players and people getting into the sport? So not necessarily position specific, but just if some a young player that is just getting into it at any level really. It doesn't have to be senior. It could be that they're joining it an under-19 team or whatever. But what advice would you give?
Learn the game. So learn about it. Don't just learn the position that you're going to play. Learn all the positions so you know exactly what you're doing. I mean, I've played, just an example, I've played with offensive linemen, and I've taught throughout my whole football career, learn every position on the line because you become more useful. Don't be a guy that goes, I can only play left tackle because I can only go in a left-handed stance and I can only play tackle. Learn every position. Learn how to snap the ball. Anyone can learn how to snap the ball. I remember, I think one game of the Warriors, I had to play centre. I was like the fifth string centre, but everyone kept getting hurt. And I had to play centre in that game, and because I knew how to snap. So I was say, learn football, learn not only the position that you're going to play, but learn the position you're going to be going against. Because how do you beat someone if you don't know what if you don't know what they're going to do or what they're trained to do? That's how you beat your opponent. And then also try and find a mentor within the team. Someone you look up to, someone who is a good example. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the best player. It doesn't necessarily have to be the loudest player, but someone that you actually look at and admire and go, do you know what, he's doing things the right way? And you generally can tell when someone is one of those stand-up characters within a team. You can generally work out who those people are and just follow their lead and learn from them. And don't be afraid to ask questions. The only stupid question is one that isn't asked. Really. Like you say, you're never too old to keep learning and understand more about this game. I mean, I learned probably in my last 5 years of playing more technical stuff of playing offensive line than I had done beforehand. I used to get by on just sheer aggression and brute force when I couldn't, and I had to become a little bit more technical because the players got a little bit better, they got more athletic. So going against guys like Niall Scott-Grant, Alex Haldane, Ariel Mofondo, and that every week in practice, you have to go, all right, I can out-muscle them, but guess what? They're faster than me. So what do I need to do if I can't get my hands on them? How can I beat them technically as well as aggressively? Because anyone could be aggressive or strong or whatever, but there's an element of, like you say, it's that top 2 inches. It's learning the game within the game. That's why I keep saying learn what your opponent's tendencies are, and you'll learn the guys who you practice against. You'll know what their tendencies are big time. Like I always used to have a laugh with Alex, going, I know you're going to dip after 3 steps, so I just kick back, wait until he dips, and then I pop him just as he starts to dip, and it takes him off his thing. But me learning that about him and then pointing it out to him made him realise he needs to change up what he does.
Yeah,
and he did that as well. So he started changing up his moves and how he would break things down and stuff like that. And the same with Niall as well. It's a 2-way. But so learn your opposition. So learn the opposition position. So if you're playing offensive tackle, learn what a defensive end's going to do, and then when you come to play games, watch film and study the person you're going to go against, because they'll have keys, they'll have tendencies that they'll always try and do, and then you can always work it all out.
Cool. Yeah, good advice. Just like that, as Victor said. Okay, here's one, and this is going to be interesting. The best players you've played with and against.
Best players I've played with. There's a lot. There is a lot out there. So I played on some really good teams throughout the years. I mean, but there are some guys who just seem to sort of like be another. So players I played against, probably the best player I ever played against was a guy called Tom Tovo, who was part of the NFL Europe program for a number of years. He was a phenomenal athlete. I think he was about 6'4", 300 pounds. I think he clocked a 4.740. And I must have been about 24, 25 going up against him. And I shot my hands out to block him. And he grabbed me by both my wrists. This is how fast he was. He grabbed both my wrists, and then threw me on the floor and jumped on the running back. And I just went, oh shit.
Well, so what team or what level was this? Like
this was a Premier Brtiball. He rocked out for Southern Sun Devils, and he was just another level. He's probably one of the best guys I've gone against. And then the guys at the German team, so guys like Dennis Engelbrecht as well. I just remember I'm 6'4" at the time. I was probably about 305, 310, and he picked me up and ran me 5 yards back into the quarterback, and then threw me on the floor. And I was just like, this is unbelievable. How am I supposed to compete against that? But I got in there, just did what I did. And like you say, sometimes blocking is just getting in the way. If I can slow him down by 1 second, that might be enough time for the quarterback to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best guys that I've gone against in a game. In terms of that I've played with, there's so many good players out there. But, I mean, running back Kingsley, Dwayne Watson, I've blocked for those guys. I mean, Gavin Hart I know he's talked on here. He was a good, solid player, and he did everything well and stuff like that. I mean, quarterback-wise, probably Jerome Allen is the best quarterback that I've played for. That guy was another level in terms of what he could do. And then guys like Tony McKenzie, who have that NFL Europe pedigree and stuff like that. I mean, I feel bad not naming more team players. Like you say, another guy, Ariel, that play that he made against the Blitz, where he punched the ball out of Jack Daly's hand.
Me and we've talked about that play so much.
That's the most unbelievable football player.
Still talk about it now. When Vernon was on last week, he talked about the play as well. He brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, I remember that play because it was just unreal,
unbelievable." Like, I remember being on the sideline and just watching, because Jack was gone, and we were like, "Oh no, this is going to completely change the game." And then all of a sudden, the ball was just in they had like a net around the outside of the field to keep the spectators off, and the ball was in that, and I was like, what the hell just happened? And they were like, Ariel punched it out. I was like, no way.
Yeah,
no way. It was the most unbelievable play I've ever seen.
It was everything. Like, it was the effort, it was the having the football intelligence to do that, and then the technique to do it. Like, I think had to come together.
That one play summed up that whole season. That was the first year we won it, and there was that dog mentality of. I remember saying to Ariel, like, afterwards about it, I was like, "What the hell was going through your head?" And he was literally like, "Just get that guy, just get that guy, just get that guy." And then for him to go, "I know what I do. I'm gonna punch the ball out." Just elite level thinking, and that's what distinguishes what I say good players from great players is having mental clarity at a time of high stress to do something with that much like decision and instinctiveness of back and punch the ball out.
What a game changer of a play. I mean, I can't remember the score at the time, but like just for a team to be running it, like, because I don't know how long the play was, but it was 50 plus yards, right? That play. And essentially, so for those of you that don't know this, essentially it was a blitz player that had the ball. He was running. He was a receiver, caught the ball,
a couple of tackles already, and was heading towards.
Yeah, and Vern actually said he was on the field, and when he was chatting last week, he said, "I blew the coverage." So
yeah, he missed the tackle as well.
Yeah, no, that's what he said. He didn't say blew the coverage. He said he missed the tackle.
Yeah, he missed the tackle as well.
So Ariel was playing
a wheel route. That's all it is.
Hey,
he can't cover a wheel route. That was Vern.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was basically a foot race. You know, this guy was, I don't know, good 5 yards in front of him, and Ariel was just running up behind him, and you think it was almost one of them ones that you see on TV, and they, you know, the defenders not like give up. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, he's run that in, and and just as he must have been within the 5 yard, within 5 yards, Ariel's hand comes out and punches it from underneath the guy's arm, and it goes out the back of the end zone. Now, from a rules perspective, what that now means is it is Warriors ball at the 20-yard line.
Yeah,
so completely to deflate that team, you know, and lift the Warriors. I bet it was mental. I bet you guys were going nuts about it. But I remember watching it, just thinking, I can't believe I've just seen it. Like, it's the single best play I've ever seen.
I mean, I don't think we went mental like you do when you win. I think there was actually a lot of people who went, "What?" Like, do you know when you have that? What did I just see?
Yeah,
did that actually happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. It was just awesome, an awesome place. Do you know what? I might clip it and paste it because we've now pasted it on Gridiron Hub because we've talked about it twice now and people need to see it because it is.
People need to see that play. That one needs.
We might get him on just to talk about that one play.
Yeah, you should do. Harry will talk about it. I know. That one play is the greatest play I've ever seen in my whole life.
Yeah. But we've talked about it at great length, haven't we? Me, you, DC. Yeah. We've been out like eating a meal and maybe spent 30 minutes just talking about it because it's just tremendous.
Yeah, you try and dissect it and you just still can't get your head around that he did.
How he did it is unbelievable. But you're right. Like it is that it is being able to do something when you're under pressure. Like like the circumstances were exceptional and he was able to perform to that level is just unreal.
Yeah. And that's the difference. Is that sort of level of clarity under that level of stress.
Yeah. Gavin said, playing with great players helped me elevate my game. Grateful to be mentioned by both of you and honoured to even get mentioned.
I completely agree with that statement. Yeah. Playing against a lot of the guys, like you say, the Knights and at the Warriors actually made me elevate my game because you had to get better. You couldn't.
I spoke once on live stream here where I can remember the Knights training sessions where only 45 were able to travel to the or be kitted for the European games.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it went so we went from a squad of 60 to 70. So there were 15 odd players that were going to get that weren't going to suit up, and then all of a sudden it was like, don't fucking talk to me today. Like completely focused because I'm not watching this game. I'm playing in this game. I'm going to be on the plane, or I'm going to be the one. I'm involved in this, and it was it was awesome. Because you were raising, but you were also playing against. You were trying to compete against players that were good. And for me, that was I remember my first year at the Knights. I was trying to compete against players that were 3-4 years established, been with the Knights a long time. I was a rookie. People didn't know who I was, and I remember just thinking I've got to give everything I can and see what happens.
When you're talking about those European games and the fact that we had to trim down the roster, it's made me think of another great player who I played with, and that was Tony Stitt at running back. And it's just one of the funniest stories I've ever seen in football. Was where we'd gone out to Vienna. And it was 2 days before the game against Danube, and everyone went out and got some. I mean, it probably wasn't the best thing for the game, but it was great for the team. Everyone went out, got on the smash, was absolutely steaming drunk. I mean, I think one guy Tony Mack stole a toilet door from someone's room. I remember Kingsley came and slept in our room because he'd been locked out of his room. And then I just remember there was one point there was so much noise going on that Coach Rains came out of his room in just his briefs and vest. I think they cut into his briefs. And I just remember they said Tony Stitt was asleep in a laundry car and just literally looked up and went, "Looking good, Coach." It's just like you say, when you think about some of the best moments of football, not always the ones that are on the field. Sometimes there's these off the field moments that are just unreal. And some of these things are being part of good teams, and that always sort of brings those along.
Yeah, Claire said the Vienna night was fab, and Kingsley's room.
I remember I don't remember much of it.
Right, so I want to sort of start wrapping up because we've been going for a while now.
Voice.
What I do want to come back to, or spend some time talking about, is the British game at the moment and what you know of it, and I say what you know of it, loads about it. What do you think needs to happen for the sport to improve, and what does improvement look like?
I think there's a lot of levels that need to be done on there. I think there needs to be sort of a distinguishing of trying to stop trying to please everyone. I think BAFA need to market the Premier Division as elite sort of level of football. This is what British football is all about. And then you have your tiers underneath where people perhaps want to play for fun and want to do all this sort of stuff and showcase. And you want to showcase the sport that we can actually try and bring some sort of sponsorship or income into the sport by having this elite level of sport that's going on out there. And it's easy. Some people say it's about X, Y, Z. I think it's about coach education. I think we need to get our coaches to a better level. And I think a lot of teams and coaches, perhaps in some of the lower levels, need to check their egos in terms of, because I saw a post you guys put up earlier on about there's a region up north where they've got 5 or 6 teams within like a tiny radius.
Yeah.
Why is an area like that probably doesn't have a bigger population or nowhere near as a bigger population as London, but still has the same, if not more, levels of teams? How are you going to get quality coaching and quality, like you say, players?
Well, it's classic. It's my ball, I'm going home mentality, and then someone.
And I think that is the detriment of the sport. I think sometimes people need to actually check their own egos and understand, how do I become better? Oh, I disagree with that guy who's the head coach. I'm going to go and set up my own team. Well, rather than actually arguing about it and seeing who's got the biggest dick, go, how can we make this work? How can we make things better? How can we improve our team? And I think, as much as I'm all for, like you say, people being collaborative and stuff like that, at the end of the day, if you've got a head guy going, this is the view I want to do, empower your coaches to do what they do. Say, this is what I want from you. Don't tell them how to do it, but this is the result I want. But don't tell them how to do it. And let them coach and let them have that freedom and let them feel empowered to do things with their players in their units and stuff like that to bring them forward and develop them. If it's not working, then step in and give them some advice.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to that mentor thing that you talked about. It's mentor them rather than command them, right? Like as a coach, because I've definitely been on coaching staffs where you know that the person that's running you through a drill, for example, like, so not even a coordinator, just like a positional coach, has just been like bound and told, like, this is a certain thing you have to do, and their heart's not in it because of it, you know, and it does have a massive impact.
And actually empowering coaches to actually, like you say, lead their units how they want to do it, but then also doing the same with players as well. Like, most player groups will have a natural hierarchy, and what you need to do is you need to identify who the leader is and actually have the coach and that senior or that leader player say, well, this is what we're going to try. Like, just go to them, like, for example, a DB goes to and speaks to one guy and goes, DB coach goes, look, out of this, we're going to be working on cover 2 today. This is some of the drills that I want to do. Can you get the guys like involved and excited about it and stuff like that? And have a bit of a collaborative approach. We understand there's a hierarchy and such like, but if you actually empower people to feel as though they're part of the process, they're more likely to buy into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's very good at the Warriors. I mean, as much at the end of the day, Tony Allen at the Warriors is the head coach, he still listens to all of his coaches, asks them for their advice, lets them set up their drills and how they want to do it. And there will be times where he'll come over to the O-line and he'll literally, we used to go to our O-line coach, you're not working them hard enough, I want you to do more. And that would be it. We didn't say, I want you to do this drill and I want you to do that. It would be an outline of, right, these are the plays we're installing today. So what do you need for your guys to get them, to allow them to execute these plays when we come to team or when we come to install? And it's that. And also, like you say, empowering players, because when we're on the field, captains and the team leaders need to make decisions and they need to pick people up. We can't rely on the coaches to do all of that. So it's very much like that. So that's why I think we need to get people in the sport, be it potentially import players or players who've played at a level that actually know about leadership and can actually help and mentor guys. And then the same with the coaching staff as well, actually get in some key coaches and have mentors and things like that, and actually sit down. And it doesn't always have to be someone at your team. You could have a coach, another coach who's a mentor of yours that you actually talk to and go, I've been thinking about this drill and I've been thinking about that. And the other person can go, well, have you thought about this and have you thought about that? It's developing. It's actually building a bit more of a community rather than this, it's my ball, I'm taking it and I'm going away and I'm not going to tell you what to do. I know really, in fact, as much as closed off everyone says the Warriors are, I know for a fact we've had a number of coaches come and observe and learn from what we do at the Warriors throughout pre-seasons and during the season, and then they go on and coach at their own teams.
Yeah. It's funny. I completely agree. You know, some of the things you said I've never even thought about before, but definitely agree with. And I think the one thing that I'm always saying to the guys at Gridiron Hub is don't have and not that we're like, you know, we're not like a well-oiled machine. Everyone's like a volunteer and gets involved with stuff.
But you sure about that? You sure about that?
But there's a lot of guys around, and I need to keep them sort of motivated and stuff. And I'm always saying to them, long-term mindset. You know, like what do we want to achieve in the future? Like we're not like so. For example, a really good example is so like, you know, these live streams have been doing really well, and one of the lads, well, a couple of lads saying to me, "Oh, we should get a sponsor in," and I was like. And I said, no, not yet. Like, we haven't built anything yet. We haven't done anything proper yet. So we've had a little bit, like, you know, it's not about grabbing stuff in the short term, because you sacrifice something in the long term, you know. So yeah, I think I know it's just an example for us at Gridiron Hub, but it's the same mentality that I've seen throughout Brtiball, and I believe has existed, you know, for 30 odd years, and that's why we're still in an amateur level. But like, I can remember, you know, knowing that there are teams that used to bring in players just for the playoffs, because they wanted to win playoffs, and they'll be like, well, what about the let's say you brought in 6 players and you split them 3 and 3 offense defense. So what about the 3 lads that are now sat watching the offense play that got you there? You know, like
exactly
it's that short-term mindset that's destroyed the game for a long time, or held it back.
I'm all for, if you want to bring import players in and have them actually develop the players that are learning from, so people can watch what they do and learn about what they do. I know every single guy who I've played with in the UK who's gone and spent time in Europe. They've come back a better player because they've generally had an import player or an import coach to learn from and understand the game better. And I think that's very, very crucial. Whether or not we want to go down the route of paying people and all that sort of stuff, that's a very grey area and a lot of controversy with some people paying.
Oh, mate, I think people get a bit too bent out of shape by it. But like my view has always been like, well, if you can get it, then get it. Like I don't like the thing that people really hang on to over here with it is the old the insurance. The insurance is void, and then 2 days later, the same people are moaning the insurance is useless. You know, like so you can't have it both ways. But you know, but yeah, I agree with you. If we're bringing talent over, and in the I remember when the Knights, when we were playing, got back up into the Premier League, it was rife with players that were imports brought over, particularly the Jets. And quite famously, you know, a couple of them were quite vocal about their agreements, and they did get paid. But regardless of that, those players were brought in, and what the Jets had them doing was actually coaching youth and coaching the coaches, in their off time.
That's what you're going to
do. That's exactly the right way of doing it.
Then do it, and like you say, and I think also, if you want the longevity of the game, actually think about grassroots level. Actually bring people in to help coach up the youngsters and spend the money at the grassroots level. Like we're all old enough to say, oh, I pay to play, I earn a living, and I pay to do this. Some of these kids, some kids can't play because they can't afford to get into the sport. So why don't we try and make it available that kids at those ages, they don't have to pay for equipment unless they want to. Every youth team has enough equipment that they can kit out every player that they need to, and then they bring guest coaches in, whether it be a senior player who's able to come down and coach. I know the Warriors used to do that. Sometimes I'd get to practice early and the youth would be going on there, and you would see some of the senior players out there coaching the youngsters before they would then get ready to go and do a senior practice. And they were just giving up their time and everything like that. And again, it's all down to me for sort of like mentors and finding people that you want to be leaders. A good example is Gavin Collins, who coaches at NFL Academy. I know he's spent a lot of money out of his own pocket flying to Arizona to go and learn from the Charles Bentley, who's got his own, the very first offensive line clinic academy in Arizona. And he's gone over there 2 or 3 times at least to spend time with them, learn their techniques, understand what they're doing from there, and that really developed him as a coach. So he's now a coach at the NFL Academy.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So I've got a couple more things. One thing when I was thinking about me and you talking together, and I was thinking about our time playing together, I actually always remember you. I know. So I was thinking about you on the sideline, and obviously there's the whole leadership thing, right? Yeah. And while I know you would sit down with the other O-linemen at certain times, during the game, you quite often were someone that was stood up watching the game all the time, like. So unless you were obviously being spoken to, or you had something to discuss, or you were naked or whatever, I remember you always being like, told to get back, and you were always right there watching the entire game. And I remember it, like, the reason I remember it is there was a couple of instances, like I was known within the team as being someone that would just lay someone out. I'd take me on and I'll look for someone to hit. And I can remember a couple of times where I remember there was one in particular against Colchester. And there was a tailback who was actually quite tall. He was about 5'10", and he ran around on a sweep, and I came round to hit him, and he pointed at me and laughed, and I fucking nailed him. But I landed on top of him, and it was right next to the sideline, and you actually picked me up and patted me on the back because you had watched it, and everyone went nuts. But that sort of stuff, I think that is what makes you such a good leader, is that you were so ingrained in, even when you weren't on the field, you wanted to know what was going on, and you were encouraging players and getting involved in what was good, or also helping players that This
is how I viewed playing football. If you had the same colour jersey on me, you were my brother. So that's why I practiced, and it was offensive white, defense in black. We'd go to war against those guys in black every week at practice, for example. Yeah. But then come that game day, and we're all wearing the same colour uniform. We're all a band of brothers, and we've got each other's back. And you've got a brother. When you were growing up, how many times did you guys have punch-ups?
Loads,
all the time. Then if someone turned on your brother or turned on you, you would back each other all the way through. And that's how I view the team to be. And that's why I always try to talk to guys from all different position groups, even just to say, keep going, you're doing really, really well. Come on, get you guys fired up and all this sort of stuff. And actually, that's what it is. We're just a big family, a big band of brothers, and that's how you gotta hype each other up. And then if you realise if guys realise you're going to stand up for them, when it kicks off or whatever, because it always gets a little bit, aggy or whatever sometimes in some games. And if someone's going to back you, turn your volume down.
Sorry, I just moved my mic away. I'll just turn you down a little bit. Oh, I'll turn my speaker down a bit. I almost knocked my lighting over then, but I didn't. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt then. But yeah,
is leading by example, setting the standards that you expect everyone else to adhere to, and not allowing people to fall below those standards. I know for a fact when we've been at Warriors, and this wasn't me, this was guys on defense. We had a DB that was, when something was overthrown in practice and the wide receiver didn't catch it, DB's like, yeah, shut down. And he had another DB switch on him and literally go, shut the fuck up. You ain't done shit on that play. I suggest you actually make a play before you start celebrating stuff. And if you're accountable for everybody else, that's going to make you a better team.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't think that happens enough especially in training. People don't. There's the whole train as you play or uphold standards in training. I don't think there's many clubs out there that actually do that enough. I
would agree.
I think you get away with a lot. I would have said to you before, when I played in the US, it was like militant. You did what you were told when you were told to do it. I remember you step on the field, you run. You never put your lid upside down or on its side. Always is the right way up. All of these little things, and There's
I,
not like it's rare to find that in the UK. I think.
I think it starts from your coaching staff, and then it trickles down into the leadership group of players who are able to do that. And sometimes, like you say, you think I'm a great leader, stuff like that. But I know one preseason I turned up really out of shape, and like I was a sack of shit. And I remember I think we just done a 20-something play drive in team, and I was absolutely blown out my arse. And he wasn't even my positional coach; he was a defensive coordinator. And I come off, I've taken my helmet off, and I'm gulping down water because I'm about to die. And Coach Adam Durday, who's now at the Falcons, literally just walked up to me, didn't do it in front of anyone. He just literally walked up to me, stood next to me, and went, "You need more reps," which is his way of saying, "You're a sack of shit. You need to get into shape."
Yeah.
But he could have done it where he called me out in front of everyone, but he knew deep down that if he just comes up to me and says, "You need to do this a little bit better," or "You need to do this more," he knew that I would respond in that way. And I literally threw my water bottle down and went, "Coach, put me back in." He's like, "But you've just done 20-something plays." I was like, "No, put me back in." And I mean, that training session sucked. But at the end of the training session, he came up to me and said, "That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do from the front." And I think if you can get that in your coaches and then instill that into your players, you can actually have a really, really good program where, because you can't just expect one person to lead or two people to lead. You need to have figureheads, but then you need to have a core leadership team that's very, very strong. And I think all the best teams that I've played on have always had a good, strong leadership team across a number of people, not just one or two.
I don't know I haven't read this full comment yet, so you might have to forgive it because it's from Will. But he said, "We had the mantra: Are you playing the best you can? If so, you can look at you. You can look at your side of the ball. Is your side of the ball playing the best? If so, then you can look at the others." I don't know what the hell he means there.
I think what he's basically saying is, if you're doing your job and you're off, and like for example, the offense are doing their job, you can then look at the defense and call the defense
Well,
out.
like
I mean, one of my biggest
don't
bugs,
throw stones if you live in a glass house type thing.
yeah, pretty much. But that's the whole thing. But that's why you need to have leaders on offense and leaders on defense. There's no way I would actually think it would be okay for me to go up to a D lineman and go, "Do you know what? You're playing like absolute shit today," and call that guy out on it. But the leader of this group should be able to do that. And if it's the leader of the group who's not pulling his weight, then the coach needs to say that to that leader. And that's how it should be. But then you've got personal relationships. I know there's guys on the Warriors D line that I could turn around and say, "Look, you need to do better. This is what you need to do." And I think, like you say, John Wise, some cultural architects, you need some people that drive and develop and hold that culture and hold people to account and make sure people don't. And I think that's why the Warriors have been so strong, and I think why the Knights were so strong as well, that you had enough strong leaders to actually call out the bullshit that some people try and bring with it and stamp that out before it becomes a cancer within a team.
Yeah, makes sense. You're right. Right, one more thing, because we're almost up for 2 hours now. But one more. So, are you done with being involved in the game?
No.
So elaborate if you can. What are you planning? What have you got in your mind that you want to do more for the game now that you stopped playing?
This game has given me, like I said, 19 years of playing the sport that I love from being a kid, from like 10, 11 years old, watching it at Wembley. It's given me some of my best friends in like that I could ever imagine, like stuff that I've been going through with work and redundancy. Like in the last few weeks, I've had people that I've played football with or played football for, coaches, giving me advice, giving me support, telling me things are going to be okay. And I want to give something back to the sport. I haven't been able to because of family, career, and stuff like that. But it's not to say that it's completely off the table. I want to give something back, but the situation for me needs to be right. So I've been married. What's it now? 8 years. I've been married. I mean, with my partner for 12 years. The last 3 years, the first kind of weekends together. And it's kind of been a weird situation. So we've been doing a lot of that sort of stuff. But I think when we get to a stage where we're sick of each other and she's like, "Can you just go out on a Sunday?" That's when I'll probably start looking to give something back. But
Yeah.
I think I've just taken a bit of time for myself.
So are you thinking more coaching? It would be the way that you would go. Is that what you're?
I mean, that's the natural progression, isn't it, for most players to go in at coach? But then, like say, is that where I'm going to be most effective? Is that where my ideas might be better? Do I want to get into organisational involved with BAFA at some stage? I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd have to depend on time commitments and what I can do and where things are and stuff like that. I was like to say nothing is off the table for me at the moment. I definitely want to give something back, but I just at the same time I've wanted to take a little bit of time back for myself these last couple of years to just enjoy what we're doing. Will's asking if I want to live stream. Yeah, I could do that. Because I mean, if you want to get Warriors players on, Steve, it might be a little bit.
Yeah, they won't want to talk to me, mate. I'm like
old fanboy and stuff like that. Whereas I can play pool and they're just my mates. It's fine.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 12 years since Helen ruined Pizza Thursday.
She did. My wife is out at the moment, but yeah. Long story short, when Steve and I used to live together, Thursday. Well, it's now 2 for Tuesdays with Domino's, but it used to be Pizza Thursday.
Yeah, we'd have definitely switched, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and we used to order a massive pizza every Thursday to carve up the game or practice on Sunday.
I've got a picture of me lying down, posing on the floor with all the pizza and all the stuff around me.
Somewhere as well. You're gonna have to try and attach that to this somewhere. Yeah, so
I don't know where it is.
So then I then met my now wife, and I just remember she used to come round. We used to go out for a date on a Thursday, and I just remember one night you just sat in the living room, not eating pizza, and just go, Helen, you ruined Pizza Thursday. You've never let it go. So
nah, I can't let it go.
I dropped it.
She ruined everything. Damon Kirby's advised you to coach youth football, but yeah, I think the options are open to you, Kev. So you've got media. You could help run a club. You could help run BAFA, get involved, or you could get involved in coaching.
Like you say, I've got some things to do. Like I know there's a lot of people give back to the youth and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's off the table. Like you say, it's just not for me right now. I don't know which avenue I want to go down, and I want to explore that. And I will probably get in contact with guys like Gavin and Coach Kirby as well.
I would imagine you've probably already got a few messages in your inbox, Kev.
I mean, Damon used to coach me at Blitz when I first started playing. He was my first head coach. He was my first head coach there. Yeah, I remember he used to make us do warm-up laps running around the biggest field I've ever seen. Like it just felt like the biggest field in my whole life, and that was the warm-up, just like it must have been like a mile and a half. Well, that's what it felt like to me. It was probably only about 600 meters, but
yeah,
I used to. The first few weeks absolutely destroyed me. But I know Damon's done an awful lot with like coaching youth football. And he's done great. So yeah, I like to say nothing's off the table at the moment. I just need to work out what I can commit to, because as I've said to you, if I want to do something, I want to commit to it 100%, and I don't want to half-pass anything.
Yeah, makes sense, mate. Well, yeah, I think that brings it all to a close. But yeah, it's been awesome having you on, Kev. Like genuinely, and we'll always catch up. But you're welcome back on any time. If you know, we do some like more light-hearted things that you might want to get involved with. But yeah, it's great having you here, and really good reaction in the comments as well.
Is that basically where you take the mick out of people, and I can just sort of like join in with you?
Yeah. No, I don't. I try not to like. I try not to make it into like a too much of me taking centre stage and ripping into everyone.
So I have to admit, you are pretty good at it. That's always been your thing, is actually aiming to cut people down.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I think I was. I particularly was good at it. Like when they started saying, when someone said earlier about, do you talk to other players? I was like, I do. and I annoy them, and then they don't know, and then they don't think straight, and it's great. And then the other one was on the doors. If we were on the if I was ever allowed to work on the front door, it got to the stage where everyone was like too drunk to be let in, or it was too late for them to get let in. I would love having that conversation with them. I'd just stand there, just annoying them. But no, I try to leave that behind me for this. This is we're a little bit more serious. I let other people step forward, but
I mean, it's been fun, mate. I'm not I'm not the biggest person. I don't really like talking about myself and stuff that I've done and all this sort of stuff, because I mean, you know, like hashtag stay humble, that sort of stuff. I'm not a big ego kind of guy, but I'm more than happy to be involved in some of these discussions if it helps elicit some sort of change, some positive change. I'm all for that. I think this game can give people so much because it's given me so much, that I just want other people to get that from it like I have.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Kev. We'll end it there. Thanks everyone in the comments. This has been a really good one.
Comments and the questions and stuff like that. And if anyone's got any questions, ping them in my DMs or whatever. I probably won't answer them, but you know,
you've said the right thing at least. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. I've towed the party line.
All right. Take care.
Take it easy, fella. Bye,
guys.